The most radical and consoling understanding that Rudolf Steiner offered about the mysterious experience of meeting someone for the first time in current life, but instantly feeling as if there is deep knowledge and shared history that completely transcends the relatively short time of physical interaction, did not come from psychological theories about projection or transference, nor from biological explanations about genetic compatibility or hormonal chemistry, but emerged from his developed abilities to directly perceive karmic dynamics that operate between souls who had significant relationships in past lives, creating lasting impressions on the spiritual fabric of both that are not erased by death, but that persist through the period between incarnations, and that manifest themselves in new life as inexplicable predispositions to feel immediate affinity with certain people, even when there is no logical reason based on experiences of current biography for such deep connection, suggesting that there are relationship dimensions that completely transcend what can be explained through visible factors of personality, compatibility of interests, or shared social circumstances, because recognition that happens when kindred souls meet operates at levels that go far beyond the surface of temporal identities, touching on essences that remain relatively constant across multiple incarnations, even when personalities change dramatically from life to life, because personality is a temporary construction suitable for navigating particular circumstances of a specific life, but which does not represent the totality of the soul, which is much broader and deeper than any singular manifestation, and can be expressed through multiple personalities in successive lives, each being a different facet of the same spiritual essence, which is who the person really is, at levels that transcend singular biographies, revealing that when similar souls recognize each other, it is not temporal. Personalities that are responding to each other, although these may or may not be compatible, but it is deeper essences that carry memories not of specific events from past lives, because these are veiled during incarnation to allow freedom to begin a new chapter without being completely determined by the past. But memories of qualities of connection that were experienced together, creating resonances that, when met again, activate recognition that cannot be easily articulated in words, because it is not based on logical reasoning, but on direct knowing that emerges from levels of being that transcend cerebral thought, operating through intuitions and sensations that the body registers before the conscious mind can analyze, manifesting as sensation, immediate trust, or as inexplicable discomfort, depending on whether shared experiences in past lives were predominantly harmonious or conflictual, creating predispositions that influence how a person responds to someone in initial current life. Encounters long before sufficient information has been collected to justify such strong reactions based solely on observations of present behavior, demonstrating that there is wisdom operating at deeper levels than ordinary consciousness, where soul knows things that personality does not know because soul carries with it through death and rebirth impressions of all significant experiences they have had, especially those involving other souls, because relationships are contexts where deeper developments happen through being forced to confront aspects of oneself that only emerge in close intimacy, where there are no places to hide problematic patterns that may be kept hidden in superficial interactions, but which inevitably reveal themselves when there is the genuine commitment and vulnerability that characterize true love between souls who choose to work together through multiple lifetimes. Not because they are perfect for each other, but because they have complementary lessons to learn through navigating challenges that relationships present by offering unique opportunities for growth that would not be available if they remained alone, or if they chose only easy relationships that were not challenge nor require development beyond capabilities that have already been established, demonstrating that the soul does not primarily seek comfort when choosing who to incarnate to work with, but seeks optimal opportunities for development that often come disguised as difficulties or incompatibilities that from the ego's perspective appear to be problems, but which from the soul's perspective are precisely what was chosen to create conditions for specific learning that can only happen through confronting particular resistances that emerge in the context of a relationship with this specific person, who has been chosen not randomly but according to careful karmic design that establishes encounters that will serve the development of both souls, involved creating situations where each serves as a catalyst and mirror for the other, revealing aspects that need to be worked on and offering support, even when support comes in the form of opposition or conflict that forces a person to develop capabilities that would not have emerged without the pressure of having to navigate challenging dynamics that relationship creates, demonstrating that true love between souls is not always pleasant or comfortable, and may involve significant periods of struggle and pain, but serving greater purposes of development that transcend immediate gratification or superficial happiness. focusing on profound transformations that can only happen through being challenged in ways that force growth beyond established comfort zones, pushing a person into unknown territories where new capabilities must be developed to navigate situations that exceed current abilities, requiring expansion of repertoire of responses and deepening of understanding about oneself and the nature of relationships that are much more complex than simplistic romanticism suggests, and are in fact sophisticated laboratories of spiritual development, where through interacting intimately with another soul, person learns lessons about unconditional love, forgiveness, patience, commitment, honesty, vulnerability, and countless other qualities that can only be developed through real practice in contexts where there is genuine emotional investment, making choices meaningful rather than just being abstract exercises with no real consequences that would have no power to transform. Because genuine transformation only happens when a person is forced to confront truths about themselves that are uncomfortable but necessary for growth. That cannot happen as a person remains in comfortable illusions about who they are avoiding, recognizing problematic aspects that intimate relationships inevitably reveal through mirroring back patterns that a person does not see when alone, but that become obvious when they are activated in interactions with a partner that touch sensitive points, triggering reactions that reveal unhealed wounds and dysfunctional patterns that have been established in past lives and that continue to operate until they are brought to consciousness and deliberately worked through by making different choices than were made when patterns were originally established, creating opportunities to break cycles that have been maintained through multiple lives because none of the souls involved had enough awareness to recognize what was happening and make necessary changes. But now, through the accumulation of experiences across lifetimes, developments have reached the point where there is the ability to see patterns and make changes. Conscious choices that transform dynamics that were automatic and destructive into interactions that are deliberate and constructive, serving growth of both souls rather than perpetuating cycles of mutual harm that characterized relationships in previous lives when developments were not sufficient to allow conflicts to be resolved in healthy ways, resulting in painful separations or maintaining toxic relationships. Because there was no capacity either to work through problems or to end cleanly, and respectfully creating karmas that must be worked on in subsequent lives through meeting again in different settings, offering new opportunities to resolve what was not resolved before and to heal wounds that were created through harmful actions that both committed against another in moments of anger or fear or ignorance, not fully understanding consequences of choices they were making. But that must now be balanced through experiencing effects of past actions, returning as present life circumstances. Creating opportunities to learn through direct experience what it means to be on the receiving end of behaviors that were inflicted on others in past lives, developing empathy and understanding through having lived both sides of dynamics that were previously understood only unilaterally, allowing for the development of a fuller perspective that recognizes the complexity of human situations, where there are rarely pure villains or innocent victims, but where everyone is doing the best they can with the levels of development and understanding they possess at a particular moment, demonstrating the need for compassion for both self and others, their own logics and needs, when full contexts are understood, including limitations and pressures that were operating at times when decisions were made, revealing that development of wisdom requires not just theoretical knowledge about what is right, but lived experience of navigating complex situations, where there are no easy answers, and where every choice has costs as well as benefits, requiring judgment that can only be developed through practice in real contexts, where mistakes have genuine consequences that teach lessons that penetrate more deeply than any instruction could, because they were learned through direct experience that leaves lasting marks on consciousness, permanently transforming. As a person understands situations and how to make choices in future circumstances, demonstrating that love between souls, when it is genuine, serves a profound educational purpose that goes far beyond the gratification of emotional needs or pleasurable companionship, although these may be present, and is fundamentally about developing capabilities and wisdoms that can only be cultivated through working through the challenges that intimate relationships present, offering unique opportunities that are not available in other life contexts, demonstrating why souls choose to incarnate together multiple times, not because previous relationships were perfect, but because there is unfinished work that requires continuation through multiple encounters, each offering new opportunities to resolve what has not been resolved and to develop what has not been developed in previous iterations, progressing through cycles until lessons are completely learned and until patterns are completely transformed, allowing souls to eventually free themselves from the need to continue working together and can then each follow their own paths, having completed a chapter of development that required collaboration, but which has now been sufficiently worked on allowing transition to next phases that may involve other souls and other types of lessons, demonstrating that love between souls is not necessarily eternal in the sense of continuing forever, but is eternal in the sense that connections that were established and lessons that were learned together become a permanent part of each soul's fabric and are not lost, even when souls do not continue to interact. In future lives, because developments that occurred through working together have been integrated into becoming permanent capabilities that will be carried into all future experiences, regardless of whether particular souls that facilitated developments continue to be present or not, which must eventually become self-sufficient, not dependent on specific others for completeness, but having integrated lessons that have been learned through relationships, becoming more complete in itself, capable of operating independently while still being able to form healthy connections with others when appropriate, but not being dependent on specific connections for sense of identity or worth, demonstrating that mature love between souls allows for autonomy of both, rather than creating dependencies that limit growth by keeping souls stuck in patterns that served purposes in earlier stages of development, but which now become limitations, preventing progression to next levels that require greater independence and self-sufficiency, revealing that kindred souls do not meet to merge into a unity that eliminates distinctions between them, but to recognize each other as temporary partners on a journey of development that each is taking individually, but that for periods benefit from collaboration, where each serves as a resource and challenge to the other, facilitating growth that would be more difficult to achieve alone, but that eventually must be integrated in ways that allow each soul to operate independently, no longer needing the particular support that was useful in previous phases, but which has now been internalized, becoming its own capacity rather than dependence on external resources, demonstrating that the ultimate goal of love between souls is not to create permanent fusion, but is to facilitate the development of each individual soul that through working with others, learns lessons and develops capabilities that make it progressively more complete and autonomous, eventually capable of operating in ways that integrate everything that has been learned through multiple relationships over multiple lifetimes, creating accumulated wisdom that is the fruit of vast experiences that could not have been obtained through remaining isolated, but that required participation in an intricate dance of re-relationships, where each encounter contributed unique elements to the totality of development that is the soul's journey through the ages, progressively expanding, through working with countless other souls, each offering specific opportunities to learn particular aspects of love that is far more vast and complex than any single relationship can teach, requiring multiple experiences with multiple souls, each revealing different facets of what love can be, demonstrating that kindred souls are neither unique nor exclusive, but are multiple throughout the soul's life journey that encounters many other souls with whom it has specific affinities based on shared work in past lives, creating a network of connections that extends through time and space, including not only people who are present in the current life, but also those who were significant in past lives, and those who will be important in future lives, all connected through a karmic fabric that links souls who have worked together in mutual development, demonstrating that love between souls is much broader than the romantic concept of a single soulmate who is supposed to complete a person. Because, in fact, there are many souls with whom a person has affinities and with whom they worked in past lives, each relationship having its own character and single purpose, contributing different elements to the totality of development, revealing that seeking a perfect soulmate who will solve all problems is an illusion that does not understand the real nature of love between souls, which is not about finding external perfection, but is about recognizing opportunities for development that each relationship offers by working through challenges that emerge, instead of seeking a relationship without challenges, which would be stagnant and not offering opportunities for growth, which are the fundamental reason why souls choose to relate to each other, demonstrating that kindred souls do not find each other through seeking, but recognize each other through resonances that emerge naturally when essences that were harmonized in past lives meet, again creating an immediate sensation of familiarity that does not need to be explained, because it is known directly on levels that transcend reasoning, revealing that true love between souls operates in dimensions that include but also go beyond physical attraction and compatibility of personalities, touching essences that remain when all temporal appearances are removed, revealing spiritual cores that are who souls really are beyond all masks and constructions, demonstrating that kindred souls do not meet but recognize each other through essence resonances that reveal connections established through working together in past lives, creating love that is based not on temporary needs but on spiritual affinities that persist through all changes of form and circumstance, serving developments that transcend single life, connecting souls on journeys through multiple lifetimes, progressively developing through working together when appropriate and separating. When developments require independent experiences, demonstrating that love between souls is a complex dance of union and separation. Each phase serving specific developmental purposes requiring both connection and autonomy, both being necessary for complete growth that cannot happen through just one modality, but which requires alternating between working with others and working alone, integrating lessons. From both experiences into wisdom that is the fruit of navigating the full range of human possibilities, including both intimacy and solitude, both offering unique opportunities to learn different aspects of love that is much more vast than any single experience can reveal, requiring multiple perspectives to be understood in something approaching totality, demonstrating that kindred souls do not meet to remain together eternally, but to recognize each other as temporary companions on a journey, that each is taking individually, but that benefits from collaboration at certain points, offering opportunities for mutual development that serve both before eventually separating, to continue their own journeys, carrying with them developments that were facilitated through working together, but which are now integrated, becoming permanent capabilities that no longer depend on the presence of a specific partner, demonstrating that the ultimate goal of love between souls is to facilitate the development of autonomy, not to create dependence, revealing that kindred souls do not meet but recognize each other through resonances that activate shared works that serve mutual developments until they are completed, allowing each soul to continue its own journey, enriched by shared experiences but not limited by, and them demonstrating that true love between souls liberates rather than imprisons, serving growth that eventually allows each soul to operate independently, having integrated all that has been learned through relationship, becoming more complete in itself, capable of loving without desperate need, but with generosity that comes from inner fullness that has been developed through multiple experiences of loving and being loved, learning through each relationship different aspects of what love can be until understanding becomes vast enough to recognize that true love is not about possessing, nor about completing oneself through another, but is about recognizing and honoring spiritual essence in oneself and others, serving development of both through offering mirror and support, while also maintaining autonomy that allows each soul to be who they truly are, without having to conform to the expectations of another, demonstrating that kindred souls, when they recognize each other, are not seeking fusion, but are celebrating meeting of essences that resonate, allowing shared work that serves developments of both until it is completed, revealing that kindred souls do not meet, but recognize each other. EF Complex shared stories attempt to create a new chapter together in the current life, bringing with them not only affinities and compatibilities, but also unhealed wounds and dysfunctional patterns that were established in previous lives, and that must now be confronted and transformed if the relationship is to evolve beyond repeating cycles that characterized past encounters, demonstrating that true love between souls is not a path of least resistance, but is often a path that requires more courage and commitment because it challenges both souls to grow beyond current limitations by confronting aspects of themselves that they would prefer to avoid, but that must be worked on if genuine developments must occur, revealing that ease of relationship is not necessarily an indicator that souls are truly kindred because easy relationships, although pleasant, often do not offer opportunities for the deep growth that comes through being challenged in ways that force development beyond established capabilities. While relationships that are difficult but have a quality of depth and meaning that transcends superficial difficulties are often precisely where more important work is happening, where through persisting, through challenges, and choosing to do work of transforming patterns rather than simply giving up. When it gets difficult, souls develop capabilities that could not be cultivated through remaining alone in comfortable relationships that require nothing more than what has already been developed, demonstrating that mature love between souls recognizes that difficulties are often opportunities in disguise, offering chances to develop qualities such as patience, forgiveness, compassion, and commitment that can only be cultivated through choosing to stay present with discomfort, rather than fleeing for the safety of avoidance or seeking easy gratification elsewhere that appears to be simpler, but does not offer the depth of development that comes through working through the complexities that karmic relationships present. Revealing that souls who have the courage to do this work together are participating in the process of mutual healing and development that serves not only the individual well-being of both, but that contributes to the evolution of human consciousness as a whole, because each pair of souls who can transform destructive patterns that were established in past lives into constructive patterns that serve genuine love is demonstrating that transformation is possible, and is creating templates that facilitate similar developments for others who are working through comparable challenges, demonstrating that work that souls do in individual relationships has effects that spread beyond immediate circles by influencing morphogenetic fields that facilitate or hinder certain types of developments for humanity. As a totality, revealing that nothing is just personal, but everything has collective dimensions, demonstrating fundamental interdependence, all of all. Souls who are parts of the larger fabric of human consciousness, sharing common resources and challenges, where developments of individuals contribute to the good of the totality, and where collective patterns influence individual possibilities, creating feedback loops where individual and collective influence each other in complex processes of co-evolution that progress through the efforts of countless souls, each doing work of their own that, when genuine, benefits not only themselves, but everyone, through elevating fields of possibility, making developments that were difficult for previous generations progressively more accessible to subsequent generations who benefit from work that were made by predecessors, who blaze trails through territories that were uncharted, demonstrating that souls who choose to do the difficult work of transforming relationships in contexts of conscious development are not only serving their own needs, but are serving humanity as a whole by contributing to the evolution of collective capacities to love in ways that transcend destructive patterns that have characterized much of human history, where relationships have often been based on power and possession, rather than on mutual respect and shared development, revealing that transformation of how humans relate to one another is an essential part of the evolution of consciousness that is humanity's destiny. As it progresses from stages of development that were focused primarily on material survival to stages that integrate spiritual dimensions, recognizing that love between souls is sacred and worthy of being honored through approaches that recognize depths that transcend superficial gratifications, including developmental purposes that serve the evolution of both souls involved and of humanity as a whole, demonstrating that when kindred souls recognize each other and choose to work together, consciously, with awareness of karmic and spiritual dimensions of relationship, they are participating in something that goes far beyond personal romance, including project collaboration, evolutionary way of transforming how love is understood and practiced in a world that desperately needs relationship models that transcend ancient patterns of domination and dependency, offering visions of what is possible when souls commit to honoring spiritual essences, mutually serving developments that benefit, both allowing each to flourish into the fullness of potential, whilst also supporting another on their own journey of fulfillment, demonstrating that true love does not diminish or limit, but expands and liberates, allowing each soul to become more fully who they truly are, through being seen, honored, and supported by another who recognizes spiritual essence beyond temporal appearances, and which chooses to serve development rather than attempt to control or possess, revealing that kindred souls, when they truly recognize each other, are not seeking to complete themselves through merging, but are celebrating the meeting of autonomous essences who choose to collaborate temporarily in shared works that serve individual evolutions of both until the works are completed, allowing each to continue their own journey, enriched by shared experiences, but not limited by them, carrying developments that have been facilitated through relationship as permanent treasures that will be carried into all future. Experiences, regardless of whether particular souls that facilitated developments remain present or not, demonstrating that true love between souls does not create dependencies that limit but facilitates developments that release, allowing each soul to become progressively more complete in itself, capable of eventually loving without desperately needing it. Because inner fullness has been developed through multiple experiences of relating to others, learning through each encounter different aspects of love until understanding becomes vast enough to recognize that love in its purest essence is not about taking, but is about giving, is not about possessing, but is about honoring, not is about completing, but it is about celebrating essences that are complete in themselves, but that choose to share journeys for periods that serve mutual developments, demonstrating that kindred souls do not meet to merge permanently, but to recognize each other as temporary partners in an eternal dance of development, that each soul is doing individually through multiple lifetimes, but that at certain points they benefit from collaboration, where encounters with other souls offer unique opportunities to learn lessons and develop capabilities that would be much more difficult to achieve alone, but through working with others in contexts of intimacy and vulnerability, can be cultivated in ways that and permanently transform capabilities to love and be loved by expanding beyond limitations that were maintained through old fears and patterns that are dissolved through experiences of being seen and accepted in totality, including aspects that were judged as unacceptable, revealing, through direct experience of being loved unconditionally, that true essence is worthy of love, not needing to be modified or hidden to deserve acceptance, but can be expressed authentically, knowing that it will be honored rather than rejected, demonstrating that true love between souls heals deep wounds that were created in past lives when a person experienced rejection or betrayal or abandonment, learning through these painful experiences to protect themselves by not fully revealing who they are but keeping parts hidden to avoid the risk of being hurt again, creating patterns of self-protection that, although they are understandable, also limit the ability to experience true intimacy, which can only happen when there is genuine vulnerability, allowing one to be seen completely without masks or defenses, risking the possibility of rejection, but also opening up the possibility of being loved authentically in the totality of being, not just in aspects that are presentable, but including shadows and imperfections that are parts of shared humanity, revealing that perfection is not a requirement to be worthy of love, but that true love embraces totality, including light and shadow. Recognizing that both are parts of a complete human being who is in the process of development, not having yet achieved perfection, but being on a journey of progressive growth that deserves to be honored and supported, not judged and rejected, demonstrating that like-minded souls, when they truly recognize each other, create safe spaces where each can authentically be who they are without fear of judgment, allowing aspects that have been hidden to be able to emerging and being integrated rather than remaining fragmented, creating internal divisions that consume energy through keeping parts of self separate and hidden, preventing wholeness that can only be achieved when all parts are recognized and accepted as belonging to the totality of who a person is, revealing that true love between souls facilitates inner integration, which is essential for psychological and spiritual health, allowing the person to become progressively more whole through bringing shadows into the light, where they can be seen clearly and worked through consciously, rather than remaining in darkness, where they operate automatically influencing behavior in ways that are not conscious, creating patterns that are destructive, but cannot be changed as long as they remain invisible, demonstrating that the work of making the unconscious conscious, which is essential for psychological development, is greatly facilitated in the context of an intimate relationship, where the partner serves as a mirror reflecting back aspects that the person does not see in themselves, offering feedback that, when received with openness rather than defensiveness, allows the person to recognize patterns that need to be transformed, creating opportunities to make changes that release limitations that were being held through remaining unaware of what was operating, demonstrating that souls, like-minded people, when they recognize and choose to work together consciously, are partners in the process of bringing light to shadows, making conscious what was unconscious, facilitating integrations that allow both to become progressively more whole and authentic, capable of operating from places of integrity instead of fragmentation, living in ways that honor the totality of who they are instead of just presenting acceptable facets while suppressing aspects that are judged as problematic, creating divisions that consume energy and impede wholeness that is the birthright of every human being, but that can only be achieved through conscious work of integrating all parts of self into unified functioning that honors the complexity and multiplicity that are characteristics of the complete human being that contains multitudes, not being reducible to simple descriptions, but being rich in contradictions and paradoxes that, when embraced rather than denied, reveal a depth and richness of human experience that transcends simplistic categories, demonstrating that kindred souls meet not to confirm limited images of who they are, but to recognize and celebrate the vastness of possibilities that exist when self-imposed limitations are dissolved through of love that sees beyond masks, to essences that are infinitely vaster and richer than any constructed identity can capture, revealing that true love between souls liberates rather than confines, expands rather than limits, celebrates rather than judges, demonstrating that when kindred souls truly recognize each other, it is not to imprison one another, but to liberate one another into plenitudes of potential that can only be realized when there is support and encouragement from another who sees possibilities that may not be visible from within, but that are obvious when seen with eyes of love that recognizes spiritual essence, transcending temporal limitations of personality and circumstance, revealing that kindred souls do not meet but recognize each other through vision that penetrates beyond surfaces to depths where truths reside, waiting to be discovered and celebrated, demonstrating that true love between souls is recognition of essences that resonate, creating possibilities for shared work that serves developments of both until it is completed, allowing each person to continue their own journey, carrying with them developments that were facilitated through love that does not imprison but liberates, does not limit but expands, does not judge but celebrates, revealing that kindred souls do not meet but recognize each other.